You think wisdom is peace. It isn't. Through Carl Jung's eyes, wisdom is blood on the mirror, a reflection carved by confrontation. You have been taught to stay calm, to smile, to adapt. But wisdom begins where your mask cracks. It begins the moment you dare to face what you truly are. The chaos under control, the shadow beneath the saint. Jung believed that light without darkness is ignorance, that sanity itself is a fragile truce between your demons and your dreams. You've built a persona, polite, disciplined, acceptable, but beneath it, the real you waits, clawing for air. Every suppressed emotion, every lie you told to survive, became a ghost in your unconscious. Tonight, you will meet them, one by one. And as you listen, you'll learn why Jung called the shadow your greatest teacher. This is not a sermon, it's surgery, a dismantling of illusion. If you survive this descent, you won't return wise. You'll return untouchable. Comment below. I am ready to see myself. Now breathe and descend into the mind of Carl Jung. Number 1, the descent begins. Before wisdom awakens, the descent begins. You feel it first as unease, a subtle pressure behind the eyes, a whisper beneath your thoughts. You've spent your life escaping this place, hiding behind logic, busyness, and self-control. But Carl Jung warned, what you resist controls you. The unconscious is not a place beneath you, it is you, the unseen architecture of your mind. Every impulse, every secret desire, every fear you've buried has been waiting in the dark, patient, calculating, shaping your choices without your consent. And now you're walking toward it. You feel the walls tighten, the air grows heavy, your heartbeat becomes a metronome for revelation. This is not enlightenment. This is excavation. Jung called it the night sea journey, when the conscious mind descends into the abyss to confront what it has exiled. The descent is not punishment, it is initiation. You will lose your certainty, your image, your name. Everything you cling to will rot in this psychological ocean, and only truth will float. The descent demands surrender. No affirmations, no positivity, only raw awareness. You are not here to find light. You are here to become it. The self that steps into this darkness must die so a larger self can emerge. The self with a capital S, the total psyche. That's where wisdom hides, not in purity, but in integration. As you walk deeper, voices will rise. Your shame, your rage, your envy, all begging to be heard. Do not silence them, observe them. They are fragments of your forgotten divinity. Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So stand still in the storm. Let it peel you open. Every shiver, every tremor, every truth you denied will burn its way out. That's the price of authenticity, pain that cleanses, suffering that sculpts. If you feel yourself breaking, it means the false layer is finally cracking. Comment below, I descend to rise. Let it be your pact with your own unconscious. This is the threshold. Beyond this point, there's no going back. Breathe, traveler. You are not falling. You are remembering. Number 2, the mirror of the shadow. Now you stand before the mirror, but it doesn't reflect your face. It reflects everything you've denied. The shadow. Carl Jung called it the sum of all that your ego refuses to see. It is not evil, it is exiled. Every time you pretended to be good, the parts of you that didn't fit that illusion were cast into the dark. They didn't die. They waited. The anger, the envy, the hunger, the cruelty, all of them became a second you, hidden behind your eyes. You call it your darkness, but in truth it's your unclaimed power. Look closer. See the tremor in your reflection? That's the moment your unconscious recognizes itself. The shadow doesn't want your fear. It wants your acceptance. To reject it is to stay fragmented. To face it is to become whole. Jung said, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. You've seen that blackness in others. The cruelty in strangers, the manipulation, the hypocrisy. But now you see it in you. Don't turn away. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. This is the mirror of confrontation. the one that strips away moral fantasies and leaves you raw, human, and terrifyingly real. Here you begin to realize that wisdom isn't serenity, it's self-ownership. The more you face your own darkness, the less others can use it against you. This is how you become untouchable, by integrating what they can't see. You are not the villain, not the victim. You are both and beyond. The shadow is your greatest teacher because it tells you where your wounds still breathe. Every judgment you cast on another is a reflection of your denied self. Let that sink in. Every insult you fear carries the outline of your truth. The mirror does not lie, it only demands courage. Comment below, I face what I've hidden. This is your initiation into inner sovereignty. To be whole, you must descend into the fragments. To be wise, you must embrace your monster. The light of self-awareness burns through fear, and as you stare deeper into this reflection, remember the one who looks back is not your enemy. It's the half of you that's been waiting to come home. Number 3, the birth of self-awareness. Something stirs within you now. Not light, not hope, but awareness. It rises from the same darkness that once swallowed you whole. This is the birth of self-awareness, the moment Carl Jung described as the confrontation between the ego and the unconscious. You're not healed yet. You're exposed. You finally see how much of your life was driven by invisible hands, instincts, fears, and wounds disguised as choices. Every reaction you called natural was a whisper from the unseen mind. And now you can hear it. The silence after truth is never peace. It's disorientation. You look at your thoughts and realize they were never fully yours. They were shaped by culture, family, trauma, archetypes, ancient blueprints running through your blood. Jung said the unconscious is not just personal, it's collective. You carry the weight of humanity's forgotten stories. When you feel rage, you echo warriors. When you feel shame, you mirror centuries of repression. To become self-aware is to break that hypnosis, to see the machinery behind your emotions. You are no longer just a name or identity. You are an unfolding phenomenon. Awareness is not comfort, it's exposure. You can't go back to blindness. You can't unsee the patterns. You start to notice your defenses, the jokes, the distractions, the moral superiority, all crumbling under your own gaze. The false self begins to decay. And as it does, something extraordinary emerges. The witness, the one inside who simply observes, detached, sharp, awake. That's the embryo of wisdom. Jung called this the beginning of individuation, when consciousness expands beyond ego and begins to see itself as both subject and object. You realize that awareness is liberation disguised as loss. The things you used to chase, approval, victory, safety, begin to feel shallow, almost absurd. You no longer seek to be liked. You seek to be whole. And that is terrifying to those still asleep. You are becoming untouchable, not because you don't feel, but because you see. Awareness transforms pain into power, confusion into clarity. Every dark thought becomes data, every trigger a doorway. Comment below, I see through myself. Let this be your oath. For once you've opened your inner eyes, the outer world can never blind you again. You have begun the alchemy of consciousness, the quiet revolution of the mind. Number 4, the archetype of the wise mind. You've seen your shadow and tasted self-awareness, but something greater now begins to surface. An ancient presence, patient and vast. Jung called it the archetype of the wise mind, the inner sage that dwells beneath the noise of thought. It's not your ego becoming clever, it's your psyche remembering its origin. The wise mind doesn't speak in words. It moves in intuition, symbols, and silence. When you stop chasing certainty, it begins to whisper. It tells you that every wound had purpose, every loss was direction. You start to sense meaning emerging from chaos. That's how you know you've entered Jung's territory, the landscape where opposites reconcile. Wisdom is not kindness, it's integration. The wise mind doesn't soothe, it dismantles illusion. It looks at fear and says, you are data. It looks at guilt and says, you are a message. You stop labeling experiences as good or bad. You start asking, what is this teaching me about myself? In this shift, power begins to grow quietly within you. The wise mind has no interest in dominance. Its power is precision, the ability to see without distortion. Jung described this as the movement toward the self, the totality of being that holds all opposites in equilibrium. You are not trying to become good anymore. You are trying to become whole. The wise mind doesn't reject the beast, it trains it. It doesn't destroy the ego, it teaches it obedience. You begin to feel less reactive, less shaken. Insults bounce off not because you've grown cold, but because you've grown aware. The wise mind doesn't fight. It observes until truth exposes itself. That's the kind of untouchability that terrifies the world, calm that cannot be manipulated. Jung said the self is both the goal and the origin, the circle that completes the square. You're meeting that circle now, glimpsing the architecture of your own psyche. The wise mind watches everything, desire, despair, pride, all as equal phenomena of consciousness. And in that neutrality, you find liberation. Comment below, I see through illusion. Let it echo through your mind like a vow. You are no longer a prisoner of emotion. You are the observer of its dance. This is wisdom through Carl Jung's eyes, terrifying in its honesty, beautiful in its depth, eternal in its truth. Number 5. The battle between persona and truth. Now the battlefield shifts inward. The wise mind watches, but your persona begins to tremble. The persona, the mask you wear to survive, was never meant to be truth, only protection. Carl Jung called it the compromise between the individual and society. You crafted it carefully, polite smiles, practiced humility, curated emotions. But deep down, you know this version of you is an actor on a stage built by approval. And now that your awareness has sharpened, the mask itches against your skin. Every smile feels slightly dishonest. Every compliment sounds rehearsed. The persona begins to fracture under the weight of authenticity. Beneath it, the truth waits, raw, unfiltered, and dangerous. You start to realize how much of your goodness was submission, how much of your peace was fear. The battle between persona and truth isn't loud. It's internal warfare fought in silence. Jung warned that what we identify with controls us. The mask became your master, and you mistook obedience for virtue. But now, the rebellion begins. The true self demands air. It doesn't care who likes it, who leaves, or who doesn't understand. It seeks only one thing: alignment. When truth awakens, relationships shift, habits dissolve, old ambitions lose their color. People who once admired you might recoil. You're no longer predictable. You've stopped performing. You've stopped apologizing for existing. That's the moment society calls arrogance, but Jung would call it individuation. The process of becoming what you truly are, not what others need you to be. Truth is not polite, it's precise. It cuts through pretense like a scalpel. It forces you to admit where you've lied to yourself for comfort. The persona begs for survival, whispering, if you remove me, you'll lose everything. But you finally understand, losing falsehood is not loss, it's purification. To live in truth is to walk alone through fire with calm eyes. You will offend the shallow and attract the brave. Comment below, my truth is my shield. That's your declaration of inner rebellion. You are dismantling the performance that kept you safe but small. And as the mask burns away, you realize the terrifying beauty of authenticity. No more pretending, no more pleasing, no more fragmentation. Only the raw presence of who you've always been, finally unmasked. Number 6, integration of darkness. Now comes the most dangerous stage, integration. You've faced the shadow, glimpsed the self, and burned through the persona, but now the mind demands unity. This is where most turn back, because integration means embracing what you once called evil. Carl Jung said, no tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. You must go down, not in despair, but in understanding. The darkness within you is not corruption. It's unused potential. Every forbidden thought, every aggressive impulse, every lust and rage you buried, these are raw energies waiting for refinement. The goal is not to kill them, it's to learn their language. Suppression breeds monsters. Awareness breeds mastery. You start to sense it. The heat of your anger transforming into assertiveness. Your jealousy turning into focus. Your fear sharpening into intuition. The dark doesn't disappear, it reorganizes. The parts of you that once sabotaged now begin to serve. That's integration. You stop dividing yourself into good and bad. You stop policing your thoughts like a moral warden. You become the container, vast enough to hold chaos and control at once. Jung believed this union creates the transcendent function, the bridge between opposites that bursts transformation. You are no longer at war with yourself. You are the field on which the war ends. Feel that power settle in your bones. Quiet, patient, absolute. The more you accept your darkness, the less others can weaponize it. The insults that used to sting now dissolve, because you've already faced their truth. You can't be blackmailed by your own honesty. That's what makes you untouchable. Integration doesn't make you a saint, it makes you real. It gives you range, the capacity to move through light and shadow with precision. You learn that compassion without boundaries is weakness, and darkness without awareness is destruction. But together, awareness and darkness, they forge wisdom. You stop fearing the fire and start walking through it, knowing it's the forge that shapes your soul. Comment below, "My darkness obeys me." Let that sentence anchor itself inside you. You've now stepped beyond duality into sovereignty, no longer running from what you are, but commanding it. And as the fragments fuse, you feel the first tremor of what Jung called wholeness. Terrifying, liberating, divine. Number 7, the fire of individuation. You've entered the fire now, not the fire that destroys, but the fire that refines. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, the sacred burning where everything false melts away and everything real is revealed. Individuation is not self-improvement, it's self-confrontation. It is the furnace where shadow, ego, persona, and soul collide, fusing into one indestructible consciousness. You feel it already, the pressure, the heat, the disorientation, your psyche rearranging itself. Every belief you borrowed starts to crumble. Every label you carried, son, daughter, friend, victim, hero, disintegrates into ash. This is what rebirth feels like. Confusion wearing the mask of death. The ego panics, whispering that you're losing control. But Jung would tell you, this is control dissolving so that wisdom can emerge. Individuation is the soul's rebellion against conformity. It's where you stop seeking approval and start embodying essence. You no longer need to be understood. You need to be integrated. The fire burns away dependency, illusion, and inherited morality. What remains is raw consciousness, untamed, lucid, aware. You begin to understand that meaning isn't found, it's forged. Suffering becomes sacred fuel. Pain becomes precision. The moments that broke you now become coordinates toward clarity. And the deeper you walk into this psychological blaze, the more you realize that individuality isn't isolation, it's alignment. You're not separating from the world, you're separating from delusion. Individuation is freedom disguised as collapse. As you burn, you notice the difference between your voice and the world's noise, between inherited guilt and authentic purpose. You stop reacting. You start responding. That's the language of the individuated soul. Deliberate, detached, divine. Jung said the self is not something you possess. It's something you become when the mask, the shadow, and the ego finally shake hands. That union is fire. It consumes everything untrue and illuminates what's eternal. Comment below, "I walk through fire." Let it echo through your pulse as a vow. You are no longer being purified. You are participating in your own evolution. The flames don't hurt anymore. They reveal. This is where wisdom ignites, not in calm but in combustion. You are the alchemist now, turning pain into gold, identity into essence, chaos into consciousness. The fire has chosen you because you're finally ready to burn. Number 8. Transcending the human cage. You've survived the fire, and what remains is not a person, it's awareness wearing human skin. The illusions of identity still flicker around you like smoke, but they no longer bind. This is transcendence, not floating above the world, but seeing through it. Carl Jung warned that the greatest danger of self-knowledge is inflation, believing you're more than human. But transcendence isn't arrogance, it's clarity. You begin to understand that the human cage was never made of walls, but of definitions. Every label, every belief, every role, it was all architecture for a smaller self. You mistook it for safety. You called it meaning. But meaning built on limitation is just a gilded prison. Now the bars begin to dissolve. The emotions that once ruled you become instruments. Anger as fuel, fear as signal, love as compass. You no longer drown in them. You conduct them. Jung's transcendent function awakens fully here, the bridge between opposites, the point where consciousness stops choosing sides. You can hold paradox without breaking. You can stand between chaos and order and see both as necessary. That's the mark of psychological freedom. You don't need to be pure. You don't need to be understood. You only need to be conscious. The world keeps trying to pull you back, into noise, into conformity, into reaction. But once you've seen the structure of the mind, you can't unsee it. The matrix of thought collapses under your observation. You're not escaping humanity, you're refining it. Transcendence means moving through the world untouched by its illusions. You still feel pain, but it no longer defines you. You still face darkness, but it no longer consumes you. You've become the still point in the turning storm. That is what it means to be untouchable. Comment below, I am beyond the cage. Let it be your reminder that transcendence isn't distance. It's depth. You are not rejecting your humanity. You are reclaiming it from illusion. Jung once wrote that the goal of life is not perfection, but wholeness. And wholeness is the quiet, steady gaze of one who has walked through shadow and emerged sovereign. You have become that gaze. The cage is open. The prisoner has vanished. Only awareness remains. Watching, infinite, awake. Number 9. The untouchable mind. Now silence feels different. It doesn't suffocate, it stabilizes. You've crossed through the flames of self, and what stands now is not fragile consciousness, but an untouchable mind. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You've done that. You've become the one who observes without distortion. The world still moves. Chaos, gossip, fear, but it passes through you like wind through glass. This is not numbness, it's equilibrium. You've reached the point where no praise inflates you and no insult diminishes you. You no longer chase validation or fear rejection because you've seen both are illusions of the ego's hunger. The untouchable mind doesn't resist the world. It absorbs it, decodes it, and remains still. You start to notice how emotion arises like weather, how thoughts drift like clouds, and how nothing within you needs control to exist in harmony. Jung's psychology led you here, to individuation's quiet crown. You are no longer divided. The unconscious and the conscious sit together in dialogue. The self, vast, observing, timeless, speaks through you. That's the moment you understand mastery, not dominance, but distance. You can touch anger without becoming it. You can witness pain without collapsing into it. That's what untouchable means. Not immunity, but intimacy without attachment. You stand in the center of opposites and let them orbit your awareness. Nothing can manipulate the one who no longer needs to react. You've learned that true strength is not resistance. It's stillness under pressure. That stillness radiates. People feel it without words. The weight, the presence, the clarity. They sense the depth in your silence and mistake it for mystery, but it's just peace earned through psychological war. Comment below, my mind is untouchable. Let the phrase echo inside your chest like a heartbeat. You've become what Jung called the realized self, the fusion of chaos and consciousness. The world will still test you, but now you understand. Every attack reveals the attacker's shadow, not yours. You have become the mirror, the calm in the storm, the witness to your own eternity. And once you reach this level of awareness, no one can drag you back into the noise, because you are the silence that contains it. Number 10, the final mirror. And now you return, not to who you were, but to what you've become. The descent is over, yet the journey never ends. Before you stands the final mirror, and this time, it doesn't show your face. It shows everything. The light, the shadow, the countless versions of you that lived, died, pretended, and survived. Carl Jung called this the completion of individuation, the point where the conscious and the unconscious recognize each other as one. You stare into the reflection and see the architecture of your evolution, the child who feared rejection, the adult who hid behind intellect, the dreamer who wanted meaning, the monster who guarded your truth. All of them still exist, but they no longer rule. They orbit around you, integrated, obedient, transformed into allies. The final mirror isn't about judgment, it's about witness. You watch yourself and understand that you were never broken, only fragmented. Each fracture was a lesson in perception, each wound a doorway into expansion. Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That's the essence of wisdom through his eyes. Not knowledge, but wholeness. You begin to realize that the goal was never light versus dark, but the awareness that holds both. You are that awareness now. You are the balance point between extremes. The mirror ripples, and for the first time, it doesn't distort, it reflects perfectly. You've dissolved the separation between who you were and who you are. That is transcendence. The war is over. You can finally rest without regression. And when the world tests you again, and it will, you'll remember this silence. You'll remember this clarity. The untouchable mind does not forget. Comment below one final time, "I have become whole." Let it be your seal, your declaration to the unconscious that the circle is complete. You've walked through darkness, faced your reflection, integrated your shadow, burned through illusion, and emerged sovereign. You are no longer seeking Carl Jung's wisdom. You are living it. This is the mind beyond fear, beyond identity, beyond control. Lucid, infinite, unbreakable. You have become what Jung devoted his life to understanding. The conscious self, aware, awake, eternal. Now, take a breath. You've crossed the threshold, and if this journey changed something within you, like subscribe and turn on notifications to keep walking deeper into the shadow, your evolution has just begun.